Interesting. And let's talk about President Zelenskyy, Ukrainian
Sure.
President Zelenskyy, for a second, because you mentioned that this incursion was a bit of a surprise to European and American allies. How did he and his military finagle this?
They are being given a lot of credit by Western governments and Western military officials of a grudging kind. They're saying, you know, the Ukrainians' operational security here was great. Western governments could see where Ukrainian troops were moving, but they, no more than the Russians themselves, knew what the movement of those troops meant. And I think their awe is real. What's interesting now is what kind of effect this has on Western policy calculations. You know, in announcing the latest successes of the Ukrainian offensive, President Zelenskyy said, you know, we need more weapons, better weapons. We need fewer restrictions on them. Yesterday, there was one of the biggest Ukrainian drone attacks so far on Russian airfields, some of them even east of Moscow. And those were all drones made in Ukraine. President Zelenskyy said about this, these drones are good, but they're not as good as missiles. They're not as good as weapons that we can only get from the West. And so he is trying to increase the pressure on Western governments to help him. One issue will be, does this greater enthusiasm and confidence in the Ukrainians' ability to transform the military situation, even at the margin, does it translate into a greater accelerated supply of weapons? There's another issue for President Zelenskyy, of course, and that is how to limit the risk that these gains will be reversed. You know, I said Putin was not a happy guy and that he faces a lot of not good options, but he still has the opportunity to roll back the Ukrainian offensive if he can do so before they dig in too much and gain some of the advantages of new defensive fortifications. For President Zelenskyy, having this bold stroke be reversed, even worse, having his troops surrounded and taken prisoner, or having many casualties, that it would be part of a big defeat, retreat. All of that can quickly undo some of the political advantages that he's gained from this offensive. So he's got to figure out how to keep this new prize that he's won, this bright, shiny object that he's gained with this offensive, how to keep it from sort of just crumbling in his hands. This was, let's be honest, a risky operation, which we can't yet say is a durable success. We can say it was a stunning success, but so far brief. And the challenge for the Ukrainians and its Western supporters will be to try to hold the ground that has been gained and turn it into something meaningful, to put extra pressure on Putin, to wait for some of the domestic pressures on Putin to build. You know, people sometimes, and this was again very much the outlook of 10 days ago. People think, you know, the Russians are so full of resilience and stamina and ability to suffer through adversity and so forth, and they use the examples of World War II. But World War I actually teaches a rather different example, a different lesson. 2.5 years into World War I, which is where we are now, you had a revolution in Russia because the war looked like a losing proposition that people didn't want to stick with. Putin has to cope with what is sure to be increased debate, increased disillusionment, and criticism. And he wants to try to take action that will quickly turn that new mood into something more confident.